Hey, it's Saturday, July what's today? July the 11th. It's been a particularly violent week here in Baltimore once again. It's been an interesting week. As you can see, I still have not shaved because my simple request that we could somehow go 24 hours without shooting, it still hasn't happened yet. Really surprising. People are starting to ask me, why don't you just go ahead and give up? Can't come this far. And really, it's starting to make me a little uncomfortable physically. It itches sometimes, and I'm still not used to it, so I tend to play with it and scratch it. And it doesn't look the best, unless it's a little scraggly. But what I think is interesting is that I've noticed that it's a lot grayer than I thought it would be. But there's some black hairs and some white hairs, and I was thinking about how, the whole black and white issue, and we're all in this together in terms of the violence in our city. So just a little silly comparison. But anyway, this week, the police chief, Anthony Batts, was fired. And besides knowing him and having met him personally and shared a few words with him, I was particularly disappointed because, firing the person at the top because of a culture that's been ingrained in our police force for quite some time now is just a political move. It doesn't do anything for anything on the streets. And actually, the reason why they're saying he was fired is because of the uptick in violence. And I find that a little humorous because certainly since before the riots, it wasn't as bad. We did not have daily shootings. They were often, but not daily. But now they're daily. And so, as a recap of the week, but again, I just feel like, Batts has been criticized for the police being passive while they were coming under attack at the beginning of the riots by the teenagers at Mondawmin Mall. But in my personal opinion, and I'm sure that anyone who's ever been in a tactical situation would also agree, that they showed a great deal of professionalism and restraint in realizing that they were dealing with children. And so what was the other alternative? To bring the aggression to the children. And I keep saying children because that's exactly how this thing started. There were groups of children that got stranded because as they started to gather and it got a little out of hand, the call was made to shut down all the transportation, and that area is a major transportation hub for lots of school children, subways and the buses and what have you. But back to where I was going with this is that had the police not shown the extreme restraint and professionalism by not dealing with the crowds in a violent manner, the alternative would have resulted in a massacre of children, and that wouldn't be acceptable. So, in my opinion, I think it's a little silly to criticize Anthony Batts' leadership in such a situation. I don't think any cities in America would be ready for that. But again, that's just my personal opinion, and the recap of the week. It's been a particularly violent week here in Baltimore. Again, we've had the daily shootings, of course. But just to recap some of the things that have happened this week. Let's see, on Tuesday at the University of Maryland on Baltimore City campus, 4 were shot, 3 were killed. Then on Thursday, we had 8 people shot in 6 shooting incidences. Their ages ranging from 14, 19, 23, 31, 55, 56. And I believe that all happened within 90 minutes of each other. And just today, Saturday morning, we had a 41-year-old male killed in the 1800 block of North Durham Street. At 2:26 a.m., we had a 48-year-old woman shot in the chest, I believe, in 300 block of Franklintown at 1:15 a.m., and a 25-year-old male was shot in the shoulder at 1:15 at 200 block of Conklin. And so, it's sickening. But, I thought about, we've often called the conditions here, or at least I have, the conditions here that have been created due to socioeconomic factors. I've often referred to them as a pressure cooker. And anyone who's spent any time in Baltimore knows that we have some social issues, some economic issues that have just been allowed to fester. And so sometimes you might hear that, this city's a pressure cooker just waiting to happen. And I thought about that. It's more like a crock pot. And because a pressure cooker, things happen quickly. And we're not talking about conditions that have happened overnight that could have been avoided. What we're talking about here in Baltimore City is that we have some conditions here that have been more like a crock pot in that it's been a slow boil, a slow cooking process. And behind me, you can see my crock pot there, which I have some barbecue that's going to be pretty tasty and ready soon. Let's see if we can. Yeah, it smells pretty good. But I say it's a crock pot of problems because it's been slowly but surely cooking and no one has done anything about it. And so now it's done. I hope our city is not done, but we have got to, again, stop the level of violence and the shooting in Baltimore. And I will continue on, I suppose, with my one-man stupid little crusade of bringing it to the national attention. Of course, I think the only national attention I'm getting is that I have friends in different cities who think I'm crazy for doing it. But anyway, I don't care. We need to stop the shooting. Someone needs to do something. And ironically, as we celebrated July the 4th, Independence Day and the Constitution, yada, 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 with the right to bear arms in the Constitution. But think about that. I mean, this thing is just killing us, literally, pun intended. And someone has got to do something with the amount of guns on the streets and the level of violence and incarceration and recidivism. And so that's, I think, all I have today. Hopefully I'll be able to shave soon, and all it requires is just 24 hours without a shooting. So long, and I hope my next video you'll see me clean shaven.